I call the meeting to order, 7 o'clock. Agenda item 1.1, roll call and declaration of quorum.
Dr. Matusik.
Here.
Mr. Lau.
Aye.
Mr. Choate.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Present.
Mr. Tillman.
Here. All right, agenda item 1.2, welcome to all our visitors. Thank you for coming this evening. 2.1, comments regarding agenda items. Did you have any on the speaker list? Mr. Tillman, would you run and grab that speaker? Okay, never mind. Mr. Sternberger's got it. We had no other speakers sign up for the meeting prior to the agenda being posted. No one signed. Okay, agenda item 3, the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that need to be pulled out for discussion?
I have a question, but it doesn't need to be pulled out. I just want to be reminded about the peatland occupational therapy. What are they doing for us?
That's going to be through IEPs, the occupational therapy with some students on the rehab, and it's written into their IEPs and a contract with them.
Rehab from?
Well, so occupational therapy is going to be similar to physical therapy.
Okay.
And so more manipulatives and things like that.
Okay.
Someone that we don't have on staff.
Yeah, we don't have a full staff of occupational therapists, yes.
I knew her. I thought that.
Yes.
I only see it once a year.
I'll remember you next year.
Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Dr. Matusik.
Yes.
Mr. Lau.
Aye.
Mr. Choate.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
I will abstain on 3.2, 3.3, and 3.16, and vote aye on the rest.
I'll say that again.
3.2, 3.3, and 3.16.
Mr. Tillman.
Yes. Okay. Agenda item 4, regular business. 4.1, discussion possible board action regarding the 21-22 return to learn plan.
So kind of a follow-up from last meeting when all we got started. Last year, all of us had to present the return to learn plan, and then last spring, you guys authorized Dr. Woods to be able to make decisions at a moment's notice. So the current return to learn plan, which I have sent to the health department, they reviewed, got with school nurse reviewed, and then just visiting with teachers, principals, of just basically it's what we were doing in the spring. We backed off the mask, we backed off so many things. But what I sent you in that first paragraph, where it allows that if something comes up, say that this, Delta variant, worse than what they say, and gets here, we can make a decision immediately at a local, based on local conditions, state, federal, working with, health department, and then all of a sudden be able to implement that quickly, but also then it would come to the next board meeting. So that basically allows. The other key component of this that we're doing a little different than what we did last year was, last year you had to offer, if Jason didn't feel like wasn't comfortable at school for whatever reason, you didn't ask questions, and he just said, I'm going to be a full-time virtual. Not doing that this year, not allowing for somebody to be a full-time virtual. That's not the model here. Our teachers, board, face-to-face learning is the way to go. And if somebody feels that they can't, if it's in an IEP, a true health condition, obviously we can look at virtual learning there, but somebody just choosing not to, that's not our platform, and there's others out there for them. And if a kid is suspended, or if we have to shut down, we have that ability to go into virtual learning for 2 days, a week, whatever it may be. Hopefully we don't cross that bridge, but that's it, just in case we have to. So that summarizes the return to learn plan on any questions that you guys have. And this will be a change, a constant moving target, because this has to deal with our ESSER 3 money, or the CARES Act. And so they're going to require you to update it every 6 months and get more involvement and things like that. So this may change, but we'll come to you as needed.
And you'll be authorized to change this?
Yeah, all of a sudden we have a huge outbreak, That or just flu. You know, there's been times before, you know, any of us heard of COVID that you get flu cases of 20-25%, and, you know, may just call school off that day. I mean, that authorizes that, which technically already had anyway, but that just reinforces that, you know, we're constantly monitoring this and working with the health department and local officials.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve. Return to learn plan as presented.
Second?
Dr. Matusek?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mr. Choate?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes. Agenda item 4.2, discussion and possible board action regarding the student handbook for 21-22 school year.
So with 4 principals and 2 of them being new, obviously need to clean up the handbook a little bit. I know Mr. Tarango and Mr. Faulkner got together with high school counselors and some teachers, and basically you got everything that they recommended on changing. Things that were, most of that in there was just a cleanup of things that were being done, but probably not in the handbook. And the one thing I think that is new that they're wanting to look at is a test exemption, where the student, they have qualifiers as you read. But it does offer a little bit of leeway in the sense that, because it says afterwards to, you know, principal discretion. That may be one of those situations that say that a student is contact traced, which I need to go back to return to learn and say something on that here shortly. Which say a student's contact traced and they missed 10 days. Well, if they've met all their other determining factors, that committee can come forward to the principal and say, we think this kid deserves the chance to have a test exemption in this. It wouldn't be the other way where the kid's done all of it and administration or committee can say, no, you've done everything, but we're not going to let you test out. It would only be in favor of the kid. So that's the new one. But Mr. Faulkner, Mr. Tarango are here. If you guys have any questions for them.
Yeah, it was apparent that you guys went through it pretty well. As I read through it as well. There's an item that was not addressed that we've talked about ad nauseum, year after year after year, that either needs to be just removed from the handbook in regards to, it's on page 20, the grooming guidelines. It needs to be removed from the handbook or it needs to be enforced. And that's just a simple thing of gaping holes, tears, and or fringe above the knee is prohibited. The torn pants and all that, if it's in this, it needs to be enforced, regardless of what it is. If it's something that is just fashion and it's okay, then it needs to be removed. Because when we have something like that and it's in the handbook and we just won't enforce that, well, that makes everything else obsolete. You know, what are we going to pick and choose which one of these that are in the handbook that we're going to adhere to and which ones that we are not? So you guys are on the campus every day. There's a reason why it was put in there at some time. And there's others, you know, the no sagging or rolling the tops of the shorts and blah, 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 those kind of things. I would just ask that you guys either do one of the two things. Take it out or enforce it. So.
I agree.
I have a question on the vehicle policy. They're supposed to register the vehicles, copy of the driver's license and insurance at the beginning of the school year, or obviously as they get their license throughout the school year, register. How are you going to keep track of students that may be driving without a license?
Mr. Faulkner?
We're going to be getting parking permits that when they register, they'll be numbered. So if Mr. Tarango comes in and gives us his driver's license insurance information, he'll be number 001, for example. If I come and check in, I would be 002. If they're not registered, they don't have a parking permit, in which case they're in violation of the parking.
So random checks on parking lot would be one.
I was just asking because
And then if you know, your pickup is registered and you borrow mom's car, then obviously kid needs to go tell.
Well, my intention there, Mr. Sternberger, is to get ones that would hang on the mirror. So in the event they have to take a different car that day, they can just take it and put it in their other car.
Yeah, I mean, I was asking the question because I know my daughter had somebody back into her car over by the field house one day and he wasn't licensed. And so his mom said that she was driving in order to get the insurance to pay for my daughter's car, you know, so it's just, how are you gonna keep track of it? So if a student
But to
gets
get
hit-
that pass, once again, they have to exhibit, I mean, as per the guideline in the handbook, they have to exhibit insurance and
Yes.
a valid driver's license.
Yes, and if they don't have that pass, then we don't have their insurance and driver's license on file, and they
Right.
shouldn't be driving to and from school. And honestly, I think that that's something, I mean, random checks, but the SRO can, I mean, it'll be something clearly visible, kind of walk around the parking lot, make sure we don't have any, it can be a daily thing, he goes around and checks, you know, when we have kids coming in and out, when we get to school, maybe at lunchtime, and it may not be designated to the SRO, but something that will be really easy to just kind of walk around and check is the idea.
Do we have, and I mean, I know you guys being brand new to the campus, so those people that have been on here, Mr. Cameron, do we have designated faculty parking and designated students? I understand in the grade school, probably, we don't have an issue with it, but like in the high school, do we?
I think most of the year last year, I think the faculty, well, as far as on this side, the ones that drive, the faculty park in front of the high school and the students parked across the street.
Are there any, do students ever park directly in front?
There's a few students that park right back here.
Right.
No, I think they pretty much kind of kept that clear for visitors and for teachers.
Good.
And something that I'm planning to look at, because may not get to it Thursday, but definitely before school starts, is potentially having the spaces out there painted with the numbers that would correlate with that way they're in the right spot, and, you know, they're not just parking wherever, but they've got a designated spot they're supposed to be going to, and again, it would be like spot 1 would go to 001, so on and so forth. And the other issue we're kind of running into is we don't know if we're going to have more student parking than just across the street. We're assuming we won't, but it's something we're going to have to take a little more serious look at in the next couple
Well, and
weeks.
I know here, you know, there's some that want to park at the field house because they're going to be in football last period of the day and do that. There's some that want to park over here near the auditorium because they're in band or vocal music first period or last period or something like that. I don't know, you know, I think, yeah, designated, this is your parking place regardless of whether you're a football player or in the band, and maybe prioritizing the nearness to the school, to the seniors and then the juniors and then the sophomore and the few freshmen that might actually be driving it. But I'll leave that up to you guys. But I think, yeah, a designated parking space, I think fixes several problems.
When I was in the seniors, juniors, I was planning on doing that as well.
I had an incoming senior mention to me because they had seen it on Facebook. We all have about the designated senior parking spaces where they're able to paint them and decorate those. I don't know if you guys have been in schools like that. Obviously, you know, you got to kind of police what they're going to paint on their space. And we got a brand new parking lot across the street where we probably don't really want to paint it up.
I was going to say, don't.
Right. They want to do the rock. Yeah, paint the rock. No,
Tell me that in a conversation before the board meeting.
Here's approved designs, and it can only be on the rock
Policing that,
parking
a lot of
lots.
schools have gotten away from that. That was neat when it came through.
Yeah.
But policing that and then the graffiti and then what the kids write, people have really gotten away from
Well,
that.
it's the same thing with decorating your mortarboard at graduation. The first one was done with good intentions, and then it just steamrolls to, and that's why we have it in the handbook of, no, you're not decorating your mortarboard, and
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Does anyone have a motion to approve the,
Well, on that, the first thing that I mentioned on the grooming guidelines, I mean, you guys are the ones that have to police this, and previous administration said that wasn't a hill that they wanted to fight on, and I said, well, take it out of the handbook. So what do you guys want to do? I mean, Mr. Faulkner, you're going to have to enforce this. Mr. Trango, you're going to have to enforce this. If it's in this, right?
If it's in the handbook, which we plan to have that, I mean, we have to have standards for grooming and so on, and dress code, we're gonna enforce it.
Okay. That includes the staff and faculty.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, if it's in there, so we don't have an issue. I move to approve as presented.
Second.
Dr. Matusek?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mr. Choate?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes.
Any new business?
No new business tax.
All right, we'll move on. Agenda item 6, Superintendent Report.
Financial updates, you can see, kind of where we end in all funds, even with, supplanting much of the CARES 2 money. It still finished very good this year. On a good note too, I was telling Timberly today, gross production for this month was $214,000. Last year at this time, same month, it was 61. So, it looks like the kind of thing's starting to come out of it a little bit. So we're sitting.
What was
in good
last
shape.
month?
190.
And it was like it was in the tank before that too.
It was 198 the month before that, and then 3 months before that is when it really started climbing up. Yeah. But last year at this time, first 2 months were like 61 and then like 72, I think.
Yeah, it was bad.
And it was pretty bleak. And like I said, the thing financial update, just a reminder for everybody on that is we've got $1.8 million in protest and taxes right now that should be in our bank account drawing interest, and instead is in an escrow account that, wind companies are just going to continue to protest. There's no penalty. Used to they had to pay the interest on that. Now they don't. So there's no penalty for them to protest. So there's 3 years hanging out right now. So that 1.8 million, even if it's settled at 70%, that bumps it down to about 1.4 that ought to be in our bank account. So it's just sitting there. Now the state, when they figure state aid, they credit you that you got that money. It still runs through the formula. So just making sure we're all on the same page. So, any questions on the financial portion?
I
One
think that's a
thing,
better carryover than we were anticipating.
yeah, it is. Got a claim that came in, well, ad valorem reimbursement. Got an ad valorem reimbursement check of about $500,000, came in, the 30th or the 29th? Yeah, so that was unexpected. One thing to throw in, whenever we hired Mr. Faulkner and his wife, she had talked about that when they were at Newkirk, or when she was at Newkirk, Foreigner, that they had sang at the concert. So just a reminder, make it public that, they are vocal. She will be taking about 15 kids up to the Stride Center on August 5th. So, yeah, that's a good deal for them. Try to recruit some kids into the vocal program.
How
Brown,
many kids will be able to say they were on stage before?
More than electric music.
Not many kids will know who Warner is.
grounds and maintenance. Dugouts, we got that ordered, but he's got enough jobs that he will not be able to have it done by August 9th, so we're just going to wait to do the improvements, and they'll be started as soon as softball is over. One of the things that we talked about is, and last time, is, eventually getting a grandstand area behind home plate, like a lot of people have, or a concession area and what have you. If you go to the west of that third base dugout, basically about 5 feet behind that, if you have a north and south parallel line, that's going to be the boundary between us and the city. So expansion to the west is going to be pretty tough. Mr. Linsenmeyer, before we built the dugouts, I asked him, because there's a lot of space, it used to be the baseball field. So looked at, do you want to move home plate to the east or, toward pitcher's mound, toward second, and give you room that you could develop back there behind? And he looked at it, and of course you'd have to move the scoreboard, put in a new fence, you did do a sprinkler system. He was going to get a quote on all the sprinkler system and turf repair that you would have, cutting out a new infield. But that would allow for future expansion, because if we don't do it now, even though there's going to be that cost, if you don't do it now, eventually when you put the dugouts in, that hope of ever building something back behind there is going to be a long time before, the city built that with the Land and Water Conservation District, so it's kind of out of their control what can even be done there. So just something to think about. So I'll get some numbers to see if it's something we want to pursue, but that'd be another deal. If we choose to do it, we need to have it set up where it goes right into November, immediately start. That way it'd be ready for the spring. So, or initial thoughts on that. Just leave it where it is or just pursue it just for future expansion?
I would pursue the numbers.
Yes. Yeah, the numbers first, yeah. And I know Coach Linsmeyer was calling on the turf, that's who did it last time. He was getting a hold of them and kind of showing them what we wanted and what could be done, yeah. So, won't do anything until, obviously, we get.
I don't think it's absolutely out of the question, but
Yeah, we'll wait and see sometimes.
an educated decision would be
Yeah.
nice.
Geotech, the core results, waiting on those. They took 4 core samples of the track, and so once we see, the composition of all that, then the companies can get us a better estimate on what needs to be done. I've had a couple companies that come in and they say, yeah, you just take the top off and go, and you got a couple others that say, you got your asphalt, but on top, usually, whatever it looks like below the asphalt, that's about what it looks like. So they said, 3 of them were like, we're not even going to consider it until you do a core sample, because we want to know what's underneath it, because there's a lot of people that just come in and put 2 or 3 inches, or, on top of the pavement, not 2 inches, but the, where they spray it out and all that. So he said, we're not going to operate that way. So we'll know a lot more money-wise next meeting, hopefully. Mentioned ordering bleachers for baseball side, that'd be the south side or first base dugout. I have not done that yet. You guys want to pursue just ordering bleachers? There used to be there anyway. I don't know where they moved to. It's in between what would be the press box and the first base dugout.
They've been moved around a couple of times.
There's nothing there for visitor side. So visitors either have to bring a chair, stand, or sit on the home side. So you want to pursue buying bleachers for that.
Look at what
Okay.
would be the close out.
And then visitor entry at the football field being done by local contractors. I've got them working with each other, and they know their schedules. It'd be easier for me to stay out of the way, show them what we want, and you just have the sidewalk. Well, you have the entry, which would be just west of the football locker room, and then the sidewalk coming around to meet ADA compliance. Got to run a little electrical. They can move the press box over. Then you've got the gated entry. Perfect looking building a gate there. Making it nice. Maybe have a overhead archway. Maybe it's nice enough that do something on the home side.
What about fencing better than just a cord and some stringers and some T-posts that's separating the field house parking area from actually the practice fields? We've stretched it
like that fence with the cable on it.
Yeah.
We got a. Yeah.
I mean, but no, not street side, but to separate the parking area from that. I mean, the Bermuda grass is just coming in, and you don't really know where the practice fields begin and where the parking lots end. I guess Mr. Hicks and his group, I don't really know, have stretched that cord that really doesn't prevent anybody from driving out there onto it. And for some odd reason, Gary and Donnie keep building a pile of brush back there.
That's fine.
I know it's for bonfire, but there's a lot more places we got that are better for bonfire than right there. But what I'm just saying is that cord is if we're doing some improvements to the entry right there, I think some kind of tubing fence of some kind, even just 2 or 3 feet tall, to separate that area would be worthwhile to look at.
Student drug testing policy. Okay, so since you guys, in the interview process and just casual conversation, you guys wanted me to pursue just what some other schools had to see. And, like I visited on Jack's show today, the idea behind this whole thing would be prevention and early identification, making sure that parents, kids, that we're all on the same page. It's not meant to be punitive. Obviously, I don't have anything for us to act on tonight. I've sent you a rough draft. You should have another copy, a hard copy there. But the idea then is from here is basically if we need to have a community meeting, but obviously get this on the website where people can review it, have my contact information. They can send questions, concerns that they may have, kind of some highlights with what that plan is. All students, parents are given a copy and must participate. That confidentiality is a key, but a lot of people were concerned that, everybody would know unless the kid or parents tell school, cannot say anything. It's a randomly generated selection by the company. All names are entered into their database. They send us the name that morning. that morning, principals, AD, go down, get the kid, accompany kid to drug testing site that's already been prepared where they can't get water, access to water or anything, use the restroom in a cup, not watching the kids, they're behind on their own. And then if there is a positive test, first offense is parent is notified, and student must have counseling within 5 days. They obviously take a second drug test within a time frame, usually 2 weeks. And as long as test levels have gone down, then that counts as that, they're not continuing to use as long as they go down. If a second offense, it'd be a 14 calendar day suspension. Then they have to do more substance abuse training. And then third offense is remainder of the year. So it's not intended to be initially punitive, but obviously bad decisions can turn into that pretty quickly.
Suspension from school? Or
No, it has nothing to do with academics, extracurricular activities only. Yeah, no impact on academics whatsoever.
And this involves all extra.
Anybody that would be extracurricular, so local, FFA, wrestling, football, any extracurricular program that we have.
And driving.
7 through 12, and you can include the parking permits, that is correct.
Is
What
this?
about-
No, go ahead.
Yep.
Well, if it's supposed to be random, how are you going to prevent when it generates each month or however often it is? How are you going to prevent
Repeat.
repeat kids?
The way they have it set up, you don't get that. So, not back-to-back months. Now, you may have some later on in the year, but the next
Yeah.
month it doesn't automatically. The other thing about this too, where you talk about identification, is parents can request that their child, they can contact like my office and they can request, and that child, it's not like, hey, Johnny, your parents requested it, we got this computer generated list and you're not on it. That kid would just be part of it, and the school would still pay, and not the parent wouldn't have to pay. So if the parent just kind of wonders, it's a tool to help them as well.
What is tested?
What is tested? So I talked about that last time. You asked me, and I didn't get extensive. One of the companies, their list, THC, barbiturates, opiates, cocaine, something with a fiend in it that I can't pronounce, PCP, amphetamine, ecstasy, oxycodone, benzoids, methamphetamine, and methadone. So,
Is this the basic draft and policy that Kingfisher Schools has, correct?
yes, yeah.
Did Newkirk have a
It was
policy?
really similar to what he's talked about, was almost exactly the same, actually.
Enid?
Yeah.
Well, I hope for some feedback.
Yeah.
To know how to proceed.
Yep. So, hopefully we get enough feedback to have a recommendation for you at the August meeting and go from there. Any other questions or anything you guys want me to pursue on that?
Okay, if it comes up to a vote at the August meeting, what's the implementation?
The implementation is literally that we get every extracurricular student's name, give it to the drug testing company within a couple weeks, and then you could do like a once a month testing, and that's
So-
what we chose to do. And it would not
Quickly
be,
thereafter,
see, that's
it's
a school can decide on that, but we could do like once a month. You usually do it for 8 months, test in May, because
Yeah.
last month of school usually. But as long as you do like the first 8 months, some schools choose to do everybody offhand. I would stay away from that, but I mean, that's something you think that we need, we can. And then you can just pick a select amount of 7 through 12. Junior high, do we want 10 kids, 7 kids, to the number, and then it just once a month.
Was that list on,
No, I did not give you a copy of the drug testing policy. I got 2 of them, or the drug testing contract. I've got 2 of them, but I'll scan that and get that to you guys tomorrow.
and then, is this sounds random, but time of day, is it always the same, like when you
No,
do
they
that?
changed it up.
Was alcohol on the list?
Alcohol can be on the list right now, because if we smell alcohol, we can send them right now to get tested, or have somebody come in with an alcohol test.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why they don't. Now, they do for our bus drivers,
Sure.
And you can include it on there, but it's just,
But alcohol
Generally-
is
Less.
with only a few hours,
yeah, well, it is.
Yesterday's consumption or last week's consumption does not
You
show up
never
on a
went on
test.
your lunch break,
Huh?
and you never went on.
And most of the time, most of the time, like I say, those kids that, maybe take
After the nap, it's usually gone.
maybe take a longer lunch
It's out
than
of the
other
system.
kids. You can smell, you know, you can tell there's other symptoms right there, so.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? And then resignations, acknowledge that Paula Gonzalez, custodian, and then also Allison, girls basketball coach. Those are 2 resignations I received. And that, did I do the return to learn? Did I get back to that?
No.
One thing I failed to mention on that, I've hit that paper about 6 times. We worked with the health department, and on Friday, July 23rd, you guys should have got that email, sent that to you. But on July 23rd, then it's open to the public. It'll be from 10 to 12 here in this room, but they're going to offer the Pfizer vaccine to anybody that wants it. And that is for ages 12 and up. So as long as somebody that's 12 to 18 comes in with a parent or guardian, they sign off on it, that student can get vaccinated. And where this is kind of key, and Patrick and I were talking about this the other day, the current CDC guideline that makes it really nice if you have been vaccinated is there's no contact tracing. So as long as, you know, if you've been in that 6 feet or whatever the perimeter is, and as long as you've been vaccinated and do not show any symptoms, then you do not have to quarantine. So I know
Are they planning on a booster vaccination later on?
so for the Pfizer, they will set that appointment up with that individual based on their schedule. What is it? What do they have to wait on the Pfizer? I'm not even sure, but they do have to have it.
30 days.
4 or 5.
Yeah. I wasn't
And
sure.
Pfizer's the only one that age can actually take, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that it? So anyway, we got that set up today. And they're also offering free physicals, non-COVID related, but they're also offering free physicals that day. So yes, any coaches.
School board too?
Yeah.
Yeah, school board members.
See?
Not the physicals.
No. Get your yearly physical.
I'm gonna go ahead and get checked out and get my shots.
I'm not getting another vaccine.
That's all I have.
2 is
All right, thank you for the report. Agenda item, what is that?
Who? Oh, Alyssa Knight, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, kindergarten. Thank you, Stacy.
that was on the resignation.
Yes, Alyssa Knight.
Agenda item 7.1, proposed executive session to discuss the employment of certified personnel, non-certified personnel, and extra duty assignments for the 21-22 school year. We have a motion to.
Move to enter.
Second. We entered into executive session at 7:33 to discuss the employment of certified personnel, non-certified personnel, and extra duty assignments for the 21-22 school year. All board members were present, as well as Mr. Sternberger. We discussed only, agenda items. No votes were taken. Return to open session at 9:23. Agenda item 7.2, discussion and possible board action regarding the retention signing stipends for the certified and support staff.
I make a motion to approve a retention signing bonus or stipend, in August for amount of $1,000 for certified and professional staff directors and $500 for non-certified staff.
Second?
Dr. Matusek?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mr. Choate?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes.
Agenda item 7.3, discussion possible board action regarding extra duty stipend of $40 an hour for certified staff and $15 an hour for non-certified staff who attend approved professional development during non-contractual time for the 21-22 school year.
Move to approve.
Second?
Dr. Matusek?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mr. Choate?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes.
Agenda item 7.4, discussion and possible board action regarding extra duty assignments for the 21-22 school year. I'll make a motion to approve the extra duty assignments for the 21-22 school year as presented.
Second.
Dr. Matusek?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mr. Choate?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes.
Agenda item 7.5, discussion and possible board action regarding employment of Francis Streck as a child nutrition employee and junior high girls basketball head coach for the 21-22 school year. So moved.
Second.
Dr. Matusek?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mr. Choate?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes.
Agenda item 7.6, discussion and possible board action regarding employment of Stacy Klein on a support contract for $20 an hour for audio-visual assistance as needed for the 21-22 school year.
Move to approve. Second.
Dr. Matusek?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mr. Choate?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes.
It's a short 15 minutes.
I'll make a motion to
My computer didn't make
adjourn.
it that long anyways.
Second.
Aye.
Yes.